Earlier this week, I held a public meeting in relation to the need for a local school, a new secondary school in Dublin 8. The meeting was well attended by local parents, many of whom have been campaigning for a new school for a while. There's a growing campaign, there's a building momentum. So it's with great pleasure I rise to my feet here to lend my voice to support that campaign and to help build that momentum. This is an issue I've been raising for quite some time through parliamentary questions, to letters to the Minister, using QPL as is available to us. And each time we're met with intransience from the department and opaque numbers and justifications, which I'll come back to in a minute. But the fact is that there is not only there is a problem with how the Department of Education calculates the new schools, where they go, and there is very clear evidence to show that a new school, secondary school is needed for Dublin 8. Dr. Joanne Mancini in Maynooth University has shown educational provision levels are far from equal across the country, and has highlighted Dublin 8 in a recent academic article showing the significant challenge here. And while we can talk about the numbers, I just want to take a moment. At the public meeting, one of the people who came to speak was a teacher who spoke about his pupils outside the area, who spoke about his pupils from Dublin 8 and how they were very unfair, at a huge disadvantage. They spend significantly more time travelling, and this is impacting on their study. It's impacting on their carbon footprint, of course. It's impacting on their independent mobility, because they were relying on lifts from parents to get to far-flung schools instead of simply being able to walk or cycle to the school right beside them. There's also, the parents raised the impact this was having on community. Primary school groups split up, a splintering of secondary school groups. You know, you would go to school, you make new friends, and God knows school can be hard enough at the best of times. And you come back to your own neighbourhood and you're isolated because you're not with your friends from school, and the people on your road are off in a different school somewhere else. And as I say, this impact again was reflected in a survey the parents had done themselves, highlighting these concerns and the impact on their families and on their young people. And as I say, the numbers that we get from the department, because I know that, Minister, in your response there will be various numbers about the 314 school planning districts, but the numbers are very opaque. There's no published capacity numbers publicly available in relation to school capacity in an area. So it's quite hard to actually get into them. As I say, this provides a lack of transparency. And in response to a parliamentary question I asked about the intake ratio that arrived just this afternoon, the intake ratio, so first of all, the intake ratio is essentially the percentage of children in a school planning district who get to go to school in that district. So if it's a 100%, 100% of the children are going in that district. For Dublin 8, it is 55%. So 45% are having to travel outside of their community to get a secondary school place. In Blackrock, Booterstown school planning area, that number is 325%. So not only is the Booterstown Blackrock area taking 100% of the kids, but it's got enough capacity there to take an extra 225% of children, whereas there is not that capacity in Dublin 8. Equally, Blackrock recently got a new school, despite having this huge excess or overcapacity. So again, and I have a lot more numbers here, which I'll go to into my response, but essentially there is a huge gap in the provision of a second level school in Dublin 8, and the children and the community are suffering. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Deputy Costello for raising this important matter, and I am pleased to have the opportunity to describe how the Department of Education plans for new schools and increasing diversity of provision. And I'm taking this debate on behalf of the Minister for Education, Norma Foley, TD. So just, I suppose, in terms of background, and you raise very, very specific issues. on behalf of your constituents in Dublin 8. In order to plan for school provision and analyse the relevant demographic data, the Department divides the country into 314 school planning areas, which you have already referenced, and uses a geographical information system drawing data from a range of sources, including child benefit and school enrolment data, to identify where pressure for school places across the country will arise and where additional school accommodation is needed at primary and post-primary level. The requirement for additional school places is kept under ongoing review in the context of available information on population from census data, enrolment and capacity of existing schools. In addition, major new residential developments in the school planning area have the potential to alter demand in that area. As part of the demographic exercise, the Department engages with each of the local authorities to obtain up-to-date data information on significant new residential development in each area. This is necessary to ensure that school infrastructure planning is keeping pace with demographic changes, as there is constantly evolving picture with planned new residential development. 2002 demographic exercise indicates that 85% of the 314 school planning areas at primary level show static or decreasing enrolments for the period to 2026 compared with 2021. At post-primary level, some 74% of school planning areas are anticipated to have increased enrolment for the period to 2029, with most expected to reach a peak within the next 2 to 3 years. If additional accommodation is required, the aim is to try and facilitate those as much as by way of expanding existing schools rather than establishing new schools. Expansion of existing schools is considered a wider government objective under Project 2040 for an increasing emphasis on compact growth. In respect to post-primary schools, new post-primary schools must have student enrolment capacity of 600 to 1,000 students and must be co-educational. A lower threshold of 400 students may apply to Gael Costello, having regard to the alternative establishing an Irish medium unit in an English medium school. New schools are only established in areas of demographic growth, as the resources available for schooling have to be prioritised to ensure that every child has a school place. When the Department announced that a new school is required, it is open to all patrons and prospective patrons to submit an application to the Department for patronage of the new school. An online patronage process system has been operational since 2018. I'm going, because of the limited time, I want to go to the pertinent section. The most recent projections for Dublin 8 planning area indicate an increase in enrolment at primary level of up to 2026 and decreasing thereafter. At post-primary level, the recent projections for Dublin 8 school planning area indicate a slight increase in enrolment at post-primary level up to 2031, followed by projected reductions in enrolment thereafter. A new co-education, multi-denominational post-primary school under patronage of Educate Together was established in Sandymount Park to serve the Dublin 8 school planning area, along with the Dublin 2, Dublin 8, Dublin 6 and Clonskeagh school planning areas, and as a regional solution. In 2018, the school operated in interim accommodation, a major project which will provide for 1,000 pupil school when complete is currently at tender stage. This new school will reduce pressure on enrolment schools in the Dublin 8 school planning area, as well as adding to diversity VTOS provision in the area.
One of the issues, just in relation to the school in Sandymount, it's up to 90 minutes away. It's up to 90 minutes away for pupils from parts of Dublin 8. And that's 90 minutes travelling to school, 90 minutes travelling back, 90 minutes when they should be studying, impacting their ability to study, 90 minutes of travel to and from school each way, separately, when they should be with their family or with their friends. The school in Sandymount is not serving the needs of Dublin 8. I note also you say new post-primary schools must have a student enrolment capacity of 600 to 1,000. When the patronage assessment report was being published, the department's own number for Dublin 8 said there was 651 students. So by what you have said there and the department's own numbers, there is grounds for a school in Dublin 8. And with that alone, there is grounds for a school in Dublin 8. Secondly, I'd point out that Goatstown Stillorgan had a number in the patronage report of 445 when it got a new school. Enfield had a number of 322 when it got a new school. Kings Court and Cavan had a number of, I'm just double checking this, 208 when it got a new school. So again, based on your numbers here, there are plenty of areas that are getting new schools with lower need than Dublin 8. And Dublin 8 has sufficient need by the department's own numbers, and yet the department says it doesn't need a new school, when clearly its own numbers say it does. And this gets back to the point of the opacity of the numbers, the lack of transparency. And again, behind the numbers, all I have to do is share the results of that survey of parents with you. Behind those numbers is individual students and communities who are suffering because they need that new school. There are grounds for a new school in Dublin 8 by the department's own numbers. Minister, we need that new secondary school. Thank you.